Hey everyone, sorry if you can hear the aircon in the background, but it's just I've come out of a shower. I got up late after doing a Zoom class from 2 a.m. until 5 a.m. Oh my god, the time difference, and I've already got jet lag. So I'm gearing up for the day. I'm gonna go out. Sorry, that was a little burp. I'm gonna go out to a cafe and go and grab some coffee because I'm lacking sleep and I need to wake up for this conference, going to the afternoon sessions, for example. So yeah, I finished writing my talk, which is really good. I can't believe I did it. Out of all the things I had to do yesterday, including adjusting to all this jet lag, and I'm also kind of responding to events in the UK with this Supreme Court decision defining woman as a biological category. That is, who you were as birth designated according to your sex. So this basically overrides years of, I guess, recognition for trans people, which was achieved by the group Press for Change and their Gender Recognition Act. So I remember back in, I think it was 2009, I participated in a Press for Change conference. And that was great because I met loads of other trans activists and scholars. So formative to me when I was doing my PhD. Presented a little bit on my PhD, but I met some really awesome people and people who are highlights in terms of trans academics and activists in the UK and also around the world, and some of them are still my friends, are still in touch with me. So Stephen Whittle is one of those people, OBE, and alongside others within Press for Change, so formative in the public discourse around trans people and the need for recognition of our genders, and I just can't believe that we've come to this point. Well, I can believe, right? Because I've been working on this as well. So I would really, really strongly urge all of you to go out and buy, steal, or otherwise procure Enemy Feminisms by Sophie Lewis. I've spoken about it before, but it's really important for us to get a take on what is going on in the UK, right? Hopefully there'll be a challenge to this Supreme Court decision, but these discourses are reigning in the US and the UK. It's really disturbing, and we need to look after our mental health because it feels like there'll be a roll-on effect since we've got that double effect between the US and the UK. But I want us to keep in mind that these are the erstwhile global hegemons or colonial imperial forces. They've always been involved in trying to order and regulate gender and sexuality historically, and to the present day now we have this. But the most nefasta part of it, the most dark area, is the way in which this is dressed up as a variety of feminism, and how such feminists, who are not all feminists, gender critical as they dub themselves, trans exclusionary feminists, are not interested truly in women's safety. You don't see them fighting against domestic violence and for the rights of women in other ways. You just don't. I have been in so many rallies and so many organising contests with and for women, and I just never see a TERF. Their program is very much linked to a very essentialistic notion of securing womanhood. Did you notice here that there's nothing about the definition of man? It's all aimed at trans women, and it's all based on presuppositions about womanhood that are racialized, that is, based on whiteness. And the large majority of these people, including celebrating in the wake of this court ruling, are British white women. So I want us to take this seriously and realize that the majority world is not reflected in that. Indeed, across our cultures in what we call the South, we have very interesting permutations around gender and sexuality, and understandings, and yes, forms of recognition. Some of this coexists with conservative politics or even nationalism, strangely enough, in post-colonial states. We only have to think of India. So, but the truth is that even prior to British occupation, Hijra, for example, who are not the same as trans, but who were considered by the colonial administrators to be a problem, a vice, something to be regulated. The context and concept of gender and binary sex gender is very much an outgrowth of colonialism. So this is a reinstatement, an attempt to wrest back and roll back the kinds of progressive forces that also tally with fights against racism, immigrant justice. All of these things coincide. Wake up if you haven't already. Make the connections. I don't know if I'm going to be able to reach out to any gender critical feminists. I mean, they would automatically put me in the position of other. But I grew up in a female-led household. My mom, she pulled us all up by our bootstraps. I'm working class, but I'm not 100% white, right? So we have some different perspectives from family life, and we're not that kind of Anglo-Saxon nuclear family kind of protectionist, white supremacist version of family and protecting borders and notions of female vulnerability. I came from a household of strong women. Yeah, growing up in the Australian context, not always easy, right? With its own traumas and conflicts. But in this context, especially post-divorce, I had my mum, who had lived feminism as her creed and her ethos. She didn't need a man, but she accepted trans people, transsexuals such as myself, and also 4 sisters. No one can tell us who we are, but we know what our lineages are, we know what our inheritances are, and we know what our alignments are and who we are. We must fight fascism, we must fight white supremacy in these guises, on all these fronts. So I want to give a heads up, there is hope. There is hope. We have so many stories to tell. And this is about striking against racial capitalism, against imperialism and the attempts at neocolonialism by the erstwhile centers of colonial power and imperialism. That's what it's about, people. I'll put some information below about Sophie Lewis's book, which makes some really interesting connections between fascism and trans-exclusionary feminisms, which have led to this particular ruling. It's not in the interests of women. In fact, it's a reinstallation of patriarchal coloniality over bodies, minds, and the idea of civilization and its others.